that's where I came into health and fitness.
Mm,
Is I just want to be a good person for myself, for my partner, for my friends, for yourself, for the people that are listening. I just want to have my stamp on the world in a positive way. And what I found impacted that the most was my own poor health, my own poor posture, how bad I felt within my body. And I felt that just distracting me from how present I could be with my craft and my practice and the
mm.
people around me. So in short, I guess, but also long, that the number one thing that I want to help people come to the realization of is health and fitness. That going to the gym can be more than trying to look good or be a power lifter or be Olympic lifter. It could be practicing specific movements to create better biomechanics, better breath, better posture, better digestion, better energy and mindfulness as a byproduct of all these
Mhm.
practices. And I think that's what's being missed.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the episode 8 of the High Performance Management Podcast. I'm here with Navar Poole from Strength and Motion Academy in Midland, also a holistic coach. And yeah, I'm really excited about today's chat. Talk about breath, wellness, movement, biomechanics, DNA, everything like that for most optimal living, and living your most driven and purposeful life. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure there's going to be so much value for everyone listening today. So yeah, welcome, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, doing great, man. Very excited for this. We obviously just had a little chat then, and we met officially in person last week. So, love what you're doing, and I look forward to having this conversation with you.
That's great, man. Yeah, it's we just got on super well, so it's good. That's why I love doing this podcast. Just keep meeting new
Mm,
people. But yeah, no, we'll get into it, man. I think at the moment, health and fitness is it's evolving. It's we kind of touched on it just before. We're talking about people's perception of what fitness is. I do think it's quite black and white. It's they're either going because of some fear of how they look, or it's not, like, I don't think purpose driven. Do you know what I mean? I think
yeah.
you yourself being in the holistic space, you're looking at multiple areas. What are kind of like the 2 or 3 things that people can shift about their perception of training to maybe live a more fulfilling life and more energetic?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you covered it there, like purposeful, fulfilling,
Yeah.
energetic life. I think my first advice is to have that as your purpose. I
Mm.
think health and fitness should be towards feeling great within your body, removing that pain, being confident in the way that you stand and you sit, because you stand and sit comfortably and strong.
Yeah.
Uh, from my own experience within myself and people I work with, I know everyone experiences this because I've worked with thousands of people and everyone has the same thing. When I ask people, can you stand comfortably without any movement and feel good within your body? No one can. Well, not no one, but the majority of the population can't. Same thing with sitting, same thing with laying down on their back. The amount of people that can't sit, stand, lay down at peace, at full rest, at
Mm.
homeostasis, where they could be fully relaxed, is so minimal. And I think that's where a lot of people's pains are coming from, not just from a sense of the physical, but then the emotional and the mental. That we know, you're quite aware of this, that the nervous system and these neural pathways that are firing constantly because people are fidgeting all the time, or they're uncomfortable, in dysfunction or in pain, that impacts our ability to be present, to enjoy the moment, to then go out and be creative and to be of service to the world. So that's where I came into health and fitness.
Mm.
Is I just want to be a good person for myself, for my partner, for my friends, for yourself, for the people that are listening. I just want to have my stamp on the world in a positive way. And what I found impacted that the most was my own poor health, my own poor posture, how bad I felt within my body. And I felt that just distracting me from how present I could be with my craft and my practice and the
Mm.
people around me. So in short, I guess, but also long, that the number one thing that I want to help people come to the realization of is health and fitness. That going to the gym can be more than trying to look good or be a power lifter or be Olympic lifter. It could be practicing specific movements to create better biomechanics, better breath, better posture, better digestion, better energy and mindfulness as a byproduct of all these practices. And I think that's what's being missed. I don't see a lot of individuals holding a deep sense of purpose surrounding being present within their life and the people around them. And so that's been missed completely. So
it's like automatic.
Yeah, exactly. People on autopilot, people are just going through their life unaware of why they're doing what they're doing. And so it comes down to firstly having self-awareness and wanting to be present within your life. And that's what I want to use health and fitness for, mainly. So
yeah, great. Yeah, no, I think you touched a really important thing there, being self-aware. And I know, we just spoke before, you're working with, was it functional patterns?
Yes. Yeah.
Working on, biomechanics and movement patterns, which I've just touching on. So I'd love to dive into that. But like that requires, same with yoga, Pilates, it is a self-awareness greater than what you just automatically like be bopping through life. So no, that's definitely right. And I haven't thought about that, but obviously because you've been with like thousands of people sitting and like being uncomfortable just as you are. I can't imagine the strain mentally as well. Like I'm quite fortunate that I've been, self-aware enough to be working on stretching and movements and my background in chiropractic. But yeah, like your brain uses 30% of your calories. And if you're like, like got these patterns where they're just over firing, no wonder why everyone's tired.
Literally, and people are fidgeting. This is why I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 7. And I think that comes to a lot of my home environment and what I had to deal with as a young child. But a lot of individuals nowadays are diagnosed with ADHD. It's so common. It's like everyone's just dropping down with ADHD. And it brings the question of, because I've experienced it within my life. Like I was diagnosed at the age of 7. I was put on amphetamines at the age of 7, which to me blows my mind. Like a 7-year-old child that is still developing just past that theta state as well. And I'm told like, here's some drugs exogenously. Literally, it makes sense why like opiates are the #1 drug in the world, right? And it's something that's chemically driven by pharmaceutical. And I think everything has a purpose, but we're so out of balance with ourselves that we don't notice all these like fidgeting all the time, this inability to be still, and how that impacts our nervous system, how it impacts our brain and our cognition, and then also how our physiology impacts our biology, how our posture can impact our breath, and how that can impact our testosterone, our stress, our all hormones, our insulin. And that's what I believe will help majority of people. It's not like you already mentioned, like where you're moving into. It's not necessarily getting people that are sick and then chemically inducing them to try and kind of cover or band-aid that problem until the day they die. It's covering this base foundation of human health and well-being that will be far greater than any chemical reaction will ever give you. And that's where we're so disconnected from.
That's awesome. And you said like literally before, like having purpose, and the reason like you do it is so you can be a better person and you just want to do good. And by being the better person, it radiates outwards. You're better to the friends around you, your family, your partner, your community. And I think that's a massive a shift that could happen if we are becoming more self-aware and we have more energy and we're pain free. Because pain's another thing. Like myself, like that I think, because I herniated my disc in like 2018 while I was doing a comp prep, and it was like 5 weeks out too, so it was real like emotionally, right, as well as the pain. But I felt stuck for so long. It's like, and now I kept having flare-ups, and like I truly like that moment when I get a flare-up, because I like love going to the gym so much. It's like I can't imagine people that are with that pain all the time. Like chronic pain is so big at the moment. And it's like, imagine the state of society if everyone was, feeling their body. They're pain free. Then they can be a better person. They're aware of all that stuff. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I see it all the time. People with sciatica nerve pain, with bursitis in their shoulders, knees, ankles, jaw, neck, headaches and migraine, spinal issues, herniated discs, bulging discs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's more common than it's not. And
Yeah.
I don't think, maybe I'm a hopeful person, but I genuinely don't believe that's how it should be. I believe that
Yeah.
majority of society could get to a place through common practices of holistic health and fitness that will bring society and most people to a state that they don't need chemical enhancements and drugs to get them through pain. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, and you said before, yeah, like there's a place for everything. I do think there's certain people that will benefit from that.
Definitely.
It's like you can't have peace without war type of deal.
Yeah.
We do need that. But yeah, in terms of, you know, having it as that holistic point, that's definitely where we need to head for sure. Because I think even our understanding of pain is changing, which is awesome. Like we still don't really know what pain is. Technically, pain is just like a nociceptor receptor, sending a signal, being like, hang on, like there's a influx of chemicals around here that are telling me there's something painful, and then that your immune system responds to that. And it's like when we get injuries and things like that, it's not like you did something and that's what caused the injury, which is how our scientific method is, right? Like it's like you're saying, it's all these things that lead up to a lifestyle, emotional, and then it's the imbalances in like all these things that just get snapped. It's like a cable. Hey, you like pull on it and it gets to that point. Yeah. That's really interesting. You said ADHD. How are you dealing with that now? I think this is such a key thing because like literally I've got it. My brother's on medication himself. I was hesitant to going on it. I know neurochemically the benefits of the medication. I get the logic, but there has to be a better way. I agree with you. Like because what goes up must come down as well.
Yes.
It's like it can work, but then in the long term, do we even really know? I don't know. Like, what is it you do to, you know, balance out your ADHD, and what's your perceptions you've had to grow into, and do you have any daily practices?
Yeah. So this is why I cover. So at SMA we cover something called the holistic way. We have the body, and the body covers movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress. The reason why all four of those are important is with poor movement. So like I mentioned before, if I'm always fidgeting, if I'm in pain, that's going to trigger neurology, which is going to then impact focus. And that's what ADHD is, right? This hyperactivity and this inability to focus and be present on a specific task in most cases. And so if I can allow my body to be completely at rest at points when I call upon it, then that's going to allow me to be present and be more focused. Same thing with nutrition. Nutrition, if we look at neurotransmitters, if we look at gut health, and also just from like overly indulging in glucose or fructose or sucrose, for instance, then we're going to be spiking sugar levels that can impact insulin and other hormones. We could increase our cortisol, which is going to impact our ability to be focused. And then sleep and stress. Sleep is, I don't really need to explain that one too much, but that's when we rest, and that's when we move toxins and allow ourselves to hold memories and had to do everything, recover our body and heal our body. It's like sleep is probably primary in many ways, and then stress, which is where I cover breath and meditation, the ability to still the mind, to practice with the mind, to be with the mind, to identify myself, my thoughts. What am I overly thinking about, and how am I thinking about that as well? So those four are the main ones, but then you dive into stuff like communication with other people, communication with yourself, like the words that you use, how you communicate with your friends and your family and your partner. What are your relationships outside of yourself? And those are the main ones that have helped me through ADHD. And it's taken me time. It's been such a long journey. And I could only say now, as I turn 31 next Monday, now is the only point in my life where I could say I've tipped past that point of coming to a baseline where now I'm into a state of like power, of strength and confidence and creativity within myself to be present. And it's really hard to explain how I feel now in comparison to how I used to feel. It was like this, I used to feel so terrible. I used to really struggle with depression, suicide, substance abuse, sexuality. Not like I knew my sexual orientation, but I was very sexual. I partied a lot. I found whatever way I could to gain dopamine and to gain value. Chasing it hard, man. And it was like, I felt like I had to. Like in my mind, I believed I had to because there was so much discomfort and pain. And then it took me ages just to get to a neutral ground. And then that was challenging because I felt like it was nowhere. And then I had to move into this place where now I feel like I have the ability to create what I want to be, who I want to be. But if it wasn't for those practices of movement, nutrition, sleep, stress, communication, relationships with other people, I think I will still be dealing with ADHD on a very deep level, and I'll probably still be suicidal.
I think you hit on some really important things. I go through it as well. Like I said, my brother's got it, my dad's got it. There's like an 80% chance through like hereditary that I've got it. I haven't gotten tested. My brother's got it. So like there's I pretty much got it. And I've seen all this. I've struggled with the same things, chasing that dopamine dragon. But like it's only through knowledge and learning about it that you kind of become, again, self-awareness, become self-aware. You mentioned you mentioned about communicating to yourself, and then I heard you use labels like I'm strong, I'm confident. So I think labels is the biggest thing now. Like I don't know if you're on TikTok. I hate going on it because it's so good. Like my brain loves it, but there's like ADHD videos on there, and it's just a big echo chamber. Now everyone's got it, or maybe that's my algorithm. I don't know, and I can just see the labels like it's like a disease, right? It's like you go to the doctor, they're a big authority. They go, oh, okay, here's your label. You're ADHD, you're depressed, you're bipolar, you're all of these things. It's like, what about as a whole, the perception of ADHD on people? Like, obviously you've broken through that, because I think that's the biggest one. It's people thinking they're at a disadvantage because they're at ADHD. What have you gone through mentally? Like the gymnastics and the training, the reps have you gone through to come on that other side and like obviously speak to the people that there's probably a lot of people that have it and are struggling with the same stuff.
I think language is extremely powerful. I'm sure you would agree. There's many books that talk about tyranny of words and man is symbols. I was obsessed with Carl Jung and
crazy
understand
stuff,
absolutely surreal.
Weird,
and the way that like the word ADHD or the acronym ADHD can mean completely different thing to me than someone else. And understanding that really helped me as well. Was my label or my relationship with the symbol that mattered a lot, because that impacted my energetic shift towards that. And that impacted my stress and my ability to create and be charismatic or have self-belief. And so a part of that journey was identifying, how do I think of this? What do I say to myself? And what do I say to others when I talk about this topic? And so I became very, very, and it was a journey because I had to become very conscious of my words. Someone said it to me the other day that which I'm very grateful for, and I took it as a very big compliment. I try not to leak with my words. I try and be very specific with what I say, because what I've learned is the way that I speak and what I say has a huge impact on myself as an individual and my beliefs and what I create and what I'm going to succeed and achieve. So I learned massively. And I learned to identify, yes, okay, this is a problem. This is a challenge. This is something that I'm dealing with. But in that sense, it's a problem. It's a challenge. I'm dealing with it. It isn't me. Just as much as I might feel great now in this moment, I feel powerful. And yes, I am powerful, but I'm also equally weak. It's like, what's his name? Dr. DeMartini. He talks about how we have all traits within us. And I genuinely believe that. I'm equally weak as much as I am powerful. However, I built upon myself to get to a point where I could hold a more powerful state than a weak state in most situations. And that helped me a lot as well through my relationship with ADHD and suicide and depression and anxiety, because I would label myself as depressed, as anxious, as suicidal.
And identify with it.
Exactly.
Like, you're like, I am, it's not like I'm feeling depressed. It's like, I'm also depressed.
Yeah. Literally. Like me and depression is one and the same. And that was, that was a big shift, was shifting my
Yeah.
language around it and being very mindful of how I speak about things. And I do that with everything in my life now.
Yeah.
There's a challenge I have with business, there's a challenge I have with anything, my partner. Not that we have many challenges, I have a great relationship, thankfully now today. But
Yeah.
whenever I have challenges, I'm very, very mindful of how I speak upon that. Because my word really does matter. It makes a big difference to me and to other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And so if you were to, so some of the, obviously you've spoken in, in great detail about that, but like, if there was some like actionable things that like people, like, is there specific phrases you say, for example, like I know there's reframes and things like that, but just for the people listening, like when they are experiencing, sometimes you just get into that, like you said, you're strong, but equally just as weak. So when you're in those moments of, you're feeling annoyed and frustrated with you're just not focused, or you're fidgeting. And so like, have you got any phrases or like techniques you do in the moment to kind of bring you back to, self-awareness and things like that?
Yeah. So as a blanket, let's say I don't drink coffee or smoke weed or do any drugs anymore, but the ones that come up for me the most is weed and coffee. To this day, I still have moments where I'm like, I want to go have a smoke, I want to have some coffee. So
Yeah.
when I have those moments come up, I would say to myself, firstly, this is okay. Like, it's okay for me to have these desires. It's okay for me to want to fall into that. I then come back to the reflection of what has helped me gain that addiction. And so I'll remind myself that I used to smoke a lot, I used to drink a lot of coffee. And so naturally, this is coming up for me. That's okay. However, how do I want to proceed? What is it that I want to be, and how would I want to be? And what is the best resourceful choice moving forward? So, and I do that with everything. It's whatever it is that comes up for me, that tends to be the process that I go through.
That's really good. How do I want to be? I think that should be the poster child for everyone living their best life.
Yeah.
I think people don't even like think about that. How do I want to be? They just accept what they feel and react. And then that's why we get like wars.
Yeah.
And that's why you break down relationships, because everyone just says what they feel without being like, well, how do I want to be?
Yeah.
Because it's okay. Like you said, you accept it and you're like, okay, that's cool. I feel this, but how do I want to be?
Yeah.
That's so powerful, bro. Yeah. Thanks for sharing
glad.
that.
Yeah. We
That's
have that
good.
power. We have the ability to take
Isn't that
control and
crazy?
create. Yeah.
That's so weird, man. Like, well, I like that's why the biggest, when I started getting into everything, I was like, what the fuck? Like, when you really like, you step back, you're like, man, like you can actually change how you feel like in a second. I can go to my head right now and like, nice sunny day, I'm playing golf. Like, how does that make me feel? And like, focus on it, make it brighter in my brain. Like, and like your brain doesn't know the difference. Like, that blows my mind, man.
Yeah. Like, it's like when we think of food, we salivate. When we think of sex or someone attractive, like we get excited, we get aroused, and that is through our mind. We're not having sex, but we could literally feel as though we're having sex. And so if
dreams, like,
exactly. Yeah. So we have that ability, then what else can we do with that? What else can we do with that ability? And I think it's limitless. I think you mentioned it earlier when we chatted before this. It's there's so many things like Joe Dispenza that's working on like DNA and energy and what have you. And I genuinely believe we're just not at a point in time yet where we have the ability to fully measure these aspects of our lives. It's like quantum physics. It's only been recently that we realize, it's not it's like a wave, and that's how we're seeing it. But then it's not like a wave at the same time. We're not fully aware of how it is playing out within the universe.
Yeah. It's so deep. And I think, I don't know, there's a point where things like that, it's like, how do I want to be? I take this information and it's like, hey, it could be wrong, but like, we know placebo is fifth, or in some medical cases, placebo is better than the actual surgeries.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is that then? So if we can just imagine something and, focus on it and have a high intention and emotional attraction to it, like, we know through quantum mechanics that like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, I use that stuff, man. Like, I could be delusional, whatever. It put me into like a straitjacket or whatever. But like, I've seen it happen personally for me. Like, we know the law of attraction is a thing.
Yeah.
We also know that the opposite can happen. You think of the negatives and it will happen.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool what the technology is. I don't know what it's going to look like. Like, it goes. like I do think, yeah, it comes down to that whole spiritual stuff, like the old civilizations before, we had hierarchies and, bureaucracy and steps we had to follow in science. It was more about feeling and observation and nature. And you just like intuition, like, oh, let's talk about that, right? You talk about receiving thoughts and downloads. Like, what are your thoughts on that type of stuff? Like, like intuition.
Yeah, this is a very intriguing one too. I was talking to my partner about this the other night because science is observation, right? And the idea behind science is everything's a theory, and at any point, anything can be changed through observation and through science. But yet we're so like logically driven nowadays that we're attaching ourselves like this is what the papers say or this is what science says today, that there is no other opportunity or possibility outside of that, which is like to me counterintuitive science, because science is meant to have this curiosity and observation which is meant to expand out that way. Then on top of that, if we look at the geniuses that a lot of people in science really put a lot of energy on, like Newton and Einstein and Tesla and everything, right? These individuals at their present time were talking about channeling an intuition and ideas that were coming to them. It was just they were receiving these ideas. Obviously, they had a level of knowledge and within their practice that they were able to identify these ideas and then put it into like conceptualize it and create something with it.
Yeah.
But they all shared the exact same thing, that it came through these ideas and intuition that wasn't their own. It was from something else. And I generally believe that's present. And I think it's dependent on where we're at as an individual and our own interests, our own energy, our own knowledge that then allows us to identify the ideas that are present in whatever realm and this collective consciousness, then that then determines how we proceed with those ideas, if all that makes sense.
No, it does. I love that stuff. I ponder on it probably more than I should.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you like some of those scientists as well, they're just nutcases, like in
Literally.
terms of like what society expects from people. Like the reason they did extraordinary things is because they were not ordinary, right? Like it's extraordinary. They were doing things outside the bell curve. And like you're right, the whole intuition thing, like where does it come from? Like it comes from somewhere. Like I can't remember the percentage. Oh, you've done a bit of Jung and that. Like what does he talk about? What's the conscious mind percentage of how much we're actually aware of?
I'm not too sure, to be honest.
I know. I'm going to say a number. Let's say it's like 10%, but like it's the kind of analogous with like DNA. Like we're an expression of less than 1% of the whole 100% of DNA. So it's like we have access to this base of knowledge that we get from somewhere. Some of those scientists, they used to, it might have been Edison or Tesla, I can't remember, but they would sleep, have naps multiple throughout the day.
I think it was Edison, and then you have the
ball, and he would just fall asleep, and he knew when he's in that state. And now we know, like with neuroscience, like the I think is it theta when you're just waking up.
Yeah.
When you're in that state, it's like creativity. It's like when children between 0 and 7, they're in that theta state. They're just absorbing stuff. They don't have like a belief system. They just take it in. I agree with you, man. I do think that's how we should move through life.
I agree.
No labels. Like, labels are necessary sometimes, but
yeah. And it intrigues me because a lot of what we have today is because of these individuals with these practices that allow themselves to disconnect from a level of their ego or culture or society to then, like Edison, hold onto this ball, fall asleep. So then the ball will wake him up and then he'll instantly start writing ideas because wherever he went brought ideas to him. And these individuals, these minds have shaped where we are today, that have given us light, that have given us theory and maths, for instance. And they were seen as crazy in those times. And yet we still continue to do that today on the great minds and the ideas and intuition that comes to us. But then I also question, which I think you covered it very well, without fear, you don't have courage, without love, you don't have hate. So I think we also need to have a level of skepticism because that also is what brings greatness at the same time. So it's probably something that we're going to forever have to deal with.
It's just a paradox, I think.
But it's very interesting, especially in the health and fitness industry. A lot of what I practice has a lot of foresight and a lot of intuition and stuff outside of what a lot of science would be saying is correct, yet
Yeah.
it's getting multiple results far greater than a lot of people that I know are in the industry, but yet people like me get judged upon so heavily because we're
Yeah.
going against the norm. But I think that's just
Yeah.
like part of life.
That's the hardest thing I think about living in like a governed system like what we live in. Like it does need to follow some type of rules, otherwise it'd be anarchy and things like that. But it's like, yeah, you're right. Like a lot of the beliefs I have are like pretty honestly they're crazy and
Yeah.
like it just doesn't make sense. But
Yeah,
results matter, I think,
I
and
agree.
it's like chiropractic is probably the biggest thing because I think we've got like I don't know thousands of people like patients with results, but yet we can't like point it out in a study.
Yeah.
So then the general consensus is that, oh well, it doesn't work. But it's like we look at the patient results, just like what you're saying, you're seeing it. So it's like
Mm,
we're observing, we're following it, technically scientific method, but then using the method, it's really interesting.
yeah.
I think you talked about ego a lot.
Mm.
Just then, I think that's a really important thing. Ego in how we come across day to day and how it can influence our decisions and how do you navigate ego?
Yeah, yeah, great question. I think like how I mentioned, if I have something that comes up like weed or coffee, I tend to do that process with a lot of things. And then, so if I have something coming up for me, I'll question it and I'll wonder where it's coming from, what's its purpose,
Mm,
where has it been within my life before, and how would I like to proceed and how I like to be moving forward. Obviously,
that's
it takes a lot of
mm,
energy doing that for everything. However, and I'm sure you would also attest to this, the more and more you do that within your life, the more you actually cement yourself within your own truth as well. And so I've had to question myself and go through so many different deaths and ego deaths and identities that and behaviors and habits that used to serve me for whatever reason. I had to question them so deeply and then find new behaviors to progress myself forward. Or sometimes they're just a habit or behavior that does serve me. And it's a part of my ego or part of myself that actually is resourceful, that actually helps me
mm.
and the people around me. So whenever I'm navigating any sort of behavior or belief or even communication, what I say with my words or movement as well, I question that. And I go, what is the purpose of this? Like, what is the intention behind this? Is this something that I'm conscious of and intentional about? And is it something that I want to continue to do? Or is there something that I want to do to either completely change it or maybe just a little bit of flavoring to it, just change the flavor of it a little bit? Because sometimes that's all it takes. It's not changing everything, it's doing the same thing, but a little bit better.
Yeah,
And that actually generally is most of the time. It's
I
actually
love
how it
this.
plays out. Yeah.
This is also I wrote down what you said for your process. Question where does it come from, what its purpose, can I change it? Like that's massive. If people can listen to this right now and take that, I feel like that's a cheat code.
Yeah.
That's like you're entering code into the matrix type of deal.
Yeah.
It's cool because I get where you're coming from. I'm at I'm not probably at the level that you're at with the self-awareness, which is it's really cool to hear how you navigate it. But I know there's a time when I was starting this and I like Eckhart Tolle, he goes,
Yeah.
like what am I thinking? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like that. What's thoughts and beliefs? And that was like I remember that being a challenge. I remember I think it took me like 2 years of me like, what am I thinking? I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for people in that position?
Yeah.
They're starting to like they've just popped their head out of reality and they're like, hang on, this is like a construct. I can kind of live how I want to live. What's
Mm.
kind of some steps they can do to kind of reaching more of a self-awareness, or maybe it was something you did to become, start going on that journey.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you brought up Eckhart as well, because in the Power of Now,
Yeah.
this plays true to me, and I remember this so much because it really hit home for me. But he talked about his epiphany moment where he was like, "This is it. This is the day I'm going to kill myself," and he was sitting down on the park bench, and that's when he realized, like, I hate myself, and he go, how do I have the ability to hate myself? Like, How
Wow.
is there a self that is looking upon the self? How is there there's clearly two individuals here, and that's when he came to the epiphany that there's, like in counseling or psychology, you got the id and the ego, right? The higher self or the ego, or whatever like you want to label them as. I think that's really important to identify and to have that knowledge. So to gain self-awareness, I think firstly, if people are listening to this, I think people are already on a great path. Like if people
Yeah.
are listening to your podcast, people are already on a great path.
Yeah.
Gaining more knowledge and wisdom outside of yourself is a great step. Me personally, like as much as we could tap into some sort of like intuition, and I think we do have it internally, there's so many blockages that impact our ability to kind of channel that. So I think listen, read books, like gain more knowledge, gain more wisdom, talk to people, connect with people that are living the lifestyle or being the sort of person that you want to be. I think that will help you gain self-awareness. And then meditation and journaling. I see you're good with journaling. So journaling, having specific journaling prompts, the questions I even brought up earlier, you can ask yourself. You can even just ask yourself, who am I?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Yeah, what is
Questions
my
is massive.
purpose? Yeah, and I actually only just question the things that are coming up for you today. I think a lot of people are trying to find more problems to solve. You don't need to find a problem. The problems are like clearly in front of you right here, right now.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to take the time and energy to kind of identify what I'm challenged by. You're challenged right here, right now in this moment, and that's probably the challenge that you need to overcome. So journal upon the thing that's already occupying your mind and your being and your reality, and question that. What is it? What is it teaching me? How would I like to be? What do I want differently? Lots of questions. And then also meditation. Sit in stillness with either like theta brain waves or no music, no sound at all, and sit upright, tall and proud. If you need to have your back propped on something, go for it, but sit up, do not lay down, and be in silence for a minimum of 20 minutes, and do that on a daily basis. If you do a daily meditation practice for 20 minutes a day, it would change your life dramatically. And it's probably my most favorite practice.
Yeah. How are you an everyday type of guy? You do a part of your routine?
Yeah. I'm big into, like, I don't know if you've read the book Own Your Day by Aubrey Marcus, but
I didn't know he had a book, to be honest. I know Aubrey Marcus, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. He
That's
wrote it a
cool.
few years back. I think it's
right.
pretty old now, I think about it. But like, if we're going to have all these daily practices, like we wake up and we go to work, we check our emails, we check our phone, we move the same way, we sit in the same position, we drive the same car, we go the same, we do all these things on autopilot all the time. And that's on a day-to-day basis. That's for the majority of our day, 16 to 17 hours, depending on how much you sleep, right? I think that needs to be disrupted on a daily basis. I think we need to, if we're an autopilot on a daily basis, I think it's extremely important that on a daily basis, we break that to bring ourselves into our own consciousness and presence. And so we could be more intentional upon our day. I'm big into like trying to hack my life. I want to get the most out of my life as possible. I tried cheating it.
Literally, this whole podcast is high performance management. It's about I'm speaking to people like yourself. I'm selfishly just trying to absorb everything from everyone, right? Like, but yeah, totally to optimize life. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, that's probably ego, but like whatever. Yeah, no, I totally. That's bang on, 100%.
Yeah. I think it needs to be practiced every day. I tried cheating it. I tried finding ways to sleep less. I tried doing like the poly sleep cycle, where I'll sleep like 20 minutes every few hours, 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's like Einstein. He did that.
Yeah, I tried everything, man. And there's some things you can't cheat. I just don't think we can cheat it. There's ways that we've evolved to where we are today, and maybe they're meant to be within our nature to the day we die, and things like sleep. But meditation is one of them that I've tried cheating, tried finding ways to meditate less or meditate more in a specific day, so less time over a week period. But 20 minutes on a daily basis is what I found to be, through studies and through experience of myself and clients, to be the most beneficial.
Yeah, wow. What was like the biggest benefits you've seen from meditation, besides obviously like stress relief? But like, have you noticed like because everything's a habit. It's like, I know if I like, I've trained for coming up to 10 years now, actually. And I know like my squat patterns, and like I have like neural networks now. Like I can like analyze certain movements, like while I'm walking. I know like it's like really, it's probably like a bit autistic or something. I don't know, but like no offense to everyone there, but yeah.
Yeah.
But like, have you found a new like perspective doing meditation? Like, it's a skill, right? And you've gotten better at it. Like, what have you noticed?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of the time people ask me how I do meditation because naturally, or not naturally, normally at first it's so uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
people can't, I can't meditate. It's the most uncomfortable thing ever. I'm thinking and I'm worried and I want to move and I want to fidget and I want to do things. So the biggest thing I've ever experienced is the ability to detach from all of that. And the benefit of that is I do a lot. Like I'm probably the most busy person that I know, bar a couple of people that I know personally. There's certainly people out in the world that have gained resilience and capacity to do more than I do. But I do a lot. And my ability to stop the spiral of thought or the autopilot instantaneously is due to my ability
Right.
that through the skill of meditation. And
And
that
so,
serves me a lot.
when you say stop the thought, what like specifically?
Yeah. Yeah. So if I get into a spiral of obsession, and I think this comes from like the ADHD, whether it's ADHD, I think all of us as an individual have this ability to spiral into thought. Like we'll be thinking about something and we just get stuck in that spiral, even if we're
Yeah.
not meant to be spiraling about that upon that thought in that moment. I don't think necessarily spiraling is bad in all cases. I think it also
Yeah.
has a need to some degree. But let's say if I'm with my partner and I'm with her eating dinner and I'm stuck in a spiral of thought surrounding this podcast or marketing or sales or calories, which I've done before. I got caught up in this spiral of thermic effect while I'm having a shower with my partner. And she's like, "What are you thinking?" I'm like, shit,
It's like that
like,
meme. It's like he's
yeah,
thinking about other girls, thermic check of food.
literally what was happening. I told her because I was like, I'm just going to be honest here. And I was like, this is what I think about.
That's
But
funny, guys. Yeah.
my ability, the skill I've learned through meditation allows me to turn that off when needed. And I
That's
think
really
there's,
powerful.
yeah, extremely powerful. And I think it's very helpful because then I could be present. It means that when I have this podcast with you, I could deliver myself. I could hear you. I can see you. I could deliver my truth in this moment as powerfully as I can in this moment anyway. And it also allows me to rest and to come back. And I think that's something that is very underrated. It's like sleeping. When we sleep, we release toxins and we go to a different state and we release different
Yeah.
neurology and energy and pathways. And it
So
allows,
by rest, you mean like when you do it, or like is there moments in the day where you can just like change your state and like go into?
literally change at like the drop of a hat,
Dude,
which
that's
is
unreal. Yeah.
yeah, it's surreal to me. It's in all honesty, man. I say this as someone that has only achieved this in maybe the last 6 months of the ability to do it at a drop of a hat. I've been doing this since I was about 19 and I'm 31 now. And I've been on and off of meditation since the age of 19. And my first book I ever read was The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. And I studied
Yeah.
Buddhism and meditation at that point in my age. And it's taken me a long time. I think if I had practiced 20 minutes a day consistently from that age, it would have come much sooner. And this is why I invite people to do it, because I think it'll make a big difference. Because my ability now to do it is the greatest gift. Like it, sometimes I think I'm crazy. Sometimes like, am I just disassociating? Am I disconnecting?
No,
How
man, I
come
feel so excited to do this now. I'm gonna just
oh,
do that. I
yeah,
totally get it. Yeah. Like
yeah,
that's super cool. Like
yeah.
it
Well,
sounds like a superpower.
bro, it honestly is the best superpower I've ever had. I tell my partner, I'm like, I don't know. She's like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how I do it, but I could do it. I could do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's through practice. We know that it's possible, which is what brought me faith to get to this point. I
Yeah.
trusted the process in not even knowing whether it was possible, just like anything else, like
Yeah.
bodybuilding, like training. You don't know whether the result is truly going to come, but you know that this is the pathway to achieve that result. I just committed to the pathway and now
Yeah.
I have the result
Committing.
and it's
Yeah.
so good. Yeah.
Committing. Dude, that's awesome. So like you you found you're able to change thoughts, like when you're feeling obsessive, but it's always like your awareness of those thoughts is so loud now that it's like you're speaking outwards, and you can be like, hang on, no, and you've got the like consciousness to be like, no, this is like, how do I want to be? You go through that process, and restful, especially because you're so busy. Man, that sounds efficient. As I'm definitely gonna. I did it for like I've been trying to do it. So I hate using try. It's not a good word. I've been doing it on and off since like 2017, and it's like a habit. Like I did a video on habits, but like, yeah, the more often you do it, the time between you starting and stopping is going to decrease, which then you obviously get to the point where you're at and you can do it. What do you do every day?
Every day. And it's now euphoric for me. It's exciting. I have moments where it's uncomfortable. The thing that really triggered it for me in the last 6 months was I have a sauna in my garage, right? And I'll put it up to 65 degrees. And I kept telling, it frustrated me to the point that I finally committed, but I kept telling myself, I'm going to sit in the sauna at 65 degrees for 30 minutes, cross-legged, like back isn't resting. I'm sitting up tall, not even moving an inch. Don't even wipe the sweat. Don't even open my eyes.
Yeah.
And I said that, man, for like 18 months. And I tried doing it 1 to 2 times a week. And I kept quitting every like 20 minutes in. 20 minutes was the max I ever reached. I kept quitting. And I got to a point I was like, man, like I keep quitting. And then at that quitting point, I'm like, I could have kept going. And I feel like there's something there. I feel like there's something there in that last 10 minutes that is going to change my life. And then I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with this feeling of not committing and feeling like a failure to myself. No one else. I don't care what anyone else thinks of me. This is for myself.
And no one's thinking about you in your garage and the hot.
No one's thinking about me sitting there cross-legged meditating for half. Like no one cares, right? No one truly gives a shit. But I cared. And so I committed. And the first time I did it, it was the most uncomfortable thing ever. Until I broke that, maybe I don't even know what time because I never opened my eyes, but until I fully did it and I reached that 30-minute mark and I came out of it and I was like, holy shit. Like I reached a place of uncertainty and unknown that I was unknown of because I never allowed myself to get to that point.
Wow.
And I think that's where the power of meditation, like Joe Dispenza talks about, it's committing to meditation for long enough that you reach a place of unknown that you've never unlocked. A part of yourself.
No time, no one, no thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like disconnecting from everything.
I think you said it before. It's like the whole meditation thing is like one of the things you got from it was like changing your thoughts and being able to just commit and go through things. And you said, you know, you would have the goal, and you would always maybe get pulled off shiny object syndrome, and maybe that's ADHD, maybe not. I think everyone experiences it, but it sounds like, anyway, if I got it right, that maybe that's probably one of the key things you got from it. You're actually able now to, like, you see a goal and you're aware that these things are actually pulling you away. Is that, would you say, like, probably like what you just said?
Yeah, that's actually a great point.
That's really powerful. Yeah,
that reminded me of something as well that actually helped me commit to the meditation was I was having, I'm a fairly focused individual, but I was still having moments of distraction, and I don't want any moments of distraction. Like ideally, I believe I could have 99% of my life where I'm fully intentional and present in the moment, and I believe in that. Whether I achieve it, that's another story, but I'm going to keep aiming for it. And in those moments that I'll be doing work, I'll procrastinate and I'll think about a thing, or I'll look at my phone, I'll do something, right? I was instantly reminded that there's ability of me gaining self-awareness and control of my mind and my thoughts that doesn't occur at all or as much. And then that's what drove me into meditation even more so as well. It's like
you started to see results, like
I couldn't think of any other practice that allowed me to do that. Like journaling's still an action. Crazy, man. Yeah, there's nothing else that to me anyway that allows you to be fully still and present than actually the practice of being still and present. Like, what's the irony of that?
You are what you consistently do every day, right? So
exactly.
That makes sense. And I guess that makes sense for the people that are fidgeting and being distracted. They're just really, it's just a habit and they just keep doing it. And
that neurology is present. Yeah, that just keeps firing and firing.
They're just firing and wiring. Yeah. That's awesome. I think as well, there's a few things like we were talking about before, courage in challenging beliefs. I feel like once you've gotten to that level of awareness, and you're doing your meditation, and you start to see that you have these, was it like 6,000 thoughts a day we get or something stupid?
I think it's even more. Hey,
Yeah, probably. I don't know. It's like when you see those thoughts and you can see patterns in the thoughts, it's like a macro view of your brain. And then you can see how you're operating, and the results you've got are directly correlated to the thoughts that you're focusing on. So it's like when you are focusing on those thoughts and you see the pattern, and then you're part of your process that you said, question it. Where does it come from? Like, what was the biggest one? Who do I want to be? Like, how do I want to feel? Like, that's so powerful. And I think, yeah, like everyone listening, like I'm like pumped up now. I'm going to start, it's again, purpose, right? There's a bigger purpose now. So if people actually understand, like, okay, meditate 20 minutes, why you feel better. Like, it's not that like, okay, I guess I'll buy it. Like, but that's like superhuman. I like, would you say there's like the people at the top, maybe they're just naturally more aware of their thoughts, and because I think that success and people that achieve the most results are those that will just do it, right? They don't, it's not like they do it and they fall back, and they're like, would you say that's, I mean, your experience, like you've seen more results now because of this overall commitment?
Yeah, definitely. I would say I'm a very sensitive individual. Like being diagnosed with ADHD early, I think was a byproduct of my sensitivity to my environment at home. And so I reacted very strongly to that on an emotional, physiological, biological response, right? I would say I'm a very empathetic individual. And so I use meditation and other practices to allow myself to be with all of that. My capacity now to be with everything and to feel everything, to feel myself in the moment, allows me now to be free of that, to now create more success. There was so many times in my past where I knew I wasn't being present, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was impacting my ability to be present. And it was my thoughts, it was my insecurities, it was my ego, it was trying to be something, trying to be this or that. And my ability to quiet all of that allows me to be present and create, instead of being stuck in the self-conscious state. Now I could actually externalize myself and give to the world. And that's where I feel like I am now at this age, as I'm turning 31. This is the one birthday that I'm not planning anything for myself. And I actually feel like more than okay with that, because everything else I'm doing with my time right now is giving to the world and being of service, because I feel so complete within myself. And I don't think I would have felt that complete if it wasn't for my self-awareness and my meditation and these practices that allowed me to identify myself and my challenges and to move forward.
Yeah, and it sounds like purpose as well. Like we keep coming back to that. Like your purpose is obviously quite strong. In the community you guys have built, it's fantastic. You went through COVID, the hardest time for any business, let alone fitness, literally the worst. I seen my old clients unfortunately had to close down their gym. Just wrong timing. But you guys broke through it. That's like amazing. And I truly think the way you're doing it is definitely the right path. Like, I think we know this, and I think a lot more people are waking up to it as well. Like, there's no coincidence that there's a resurgence in holistic now. Like, especially after, it's funny though, after these the whole COVID thing, how many more people are going to naturopaths and natural healings? And it's because it's like our bullshit meters are going off. Like, now they're all like, oh, by the way, you don't need the third booster shot. We actually don't recommend it for anyone under 30. But you say that same thing 2 years ago, you'll be bloody ostracized and put a star on your door. Like,
You know
what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I laugh about that all the time. It's funny enough, when we were going through COVID, I had to be quite mindful of my beliefs surrounding it because of the environment. And like, I own a gym and I'm a public figure and people look to me as a leader, and there are repercussions to me expressing myself, but I didn't hide it. And I remember in those moments, I was like, man, time will tell. And I can't wait to the end of it to share that with the world, that there is this disconnect and there are other things that are going on behind doors that
Yeah.
happens within human nature. There's greed and there's gluttony, and we have all
Totally.
these traits. Yeah. So but now I'm at this point where I'm like, actually, I think that was my ego 2.5 years ago that
Oh
cares
yeah.
so much about that. Now I'm like,
But I
like,
say it all the time. I was like, I was right the whole time, and I
yeah,
love that. Like
yeah,
I love that.
yeah, yeah,
No, I think that's massive though. Actually, like you're right. We're all humans. We all have the same 4,000. Was it 642 traits? Oh no, D Martini. I can hear him whipping me. It's
yeah,
something. But we all have the same traits. I've
yeah,
got the same traits as Hitler. So it's like,
absolutely,
you're right. Like those people at the top of the power pyramid,
yeah,
it's not really anyone's fault. They're just acting on their human desires. And I can't say that if I was in a position of, some big executive in a pharmaceutical company that it's like, hey, do you want to get $30 billion in one quarter? Like,
yeah,
I don't think I'd say no,
yeah,
you know? So
yeah,
I get it. But also it's again, I think it was necessary. It's really pushed us in a direction of questioning,
yeah,
and it's brought us back to being curious, which is what you were saying in the beginning,
yeah,
which I
yeah.
think that it's going to be such an exciting next few years in terms of scientific discoveries. Like where's the latest Nobel prizes from quantum mechanics?
Mm,
They proved that the two particles opposite, no matter the distance, interact with
yeah,
each other, which was
yeah,
just a theory at one point,
yeah,
and now they've got evidence.
yeah,
So, you needed to be curious to get to that point.
yeah.
How are we going on time? You doing all right? Yeah, we've got about 10 minutes. So,
Sounds good.
no, that's really cool, man. I think I know I'm trying to see what else we would touch. Yeah, changing beliefs, ego. I think we've touched on a lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Going forward, what do you see the next few years to look like in terms of health and fitness, or even as well? Double question: what's the kind of trajectory of SMA? Is there any new things
Mm,
you're hoping to implement for your members, and what does
yeah.
that look like?
Yeah, great question. Uh, I feel very blessed, hey, to be I'm 31 in the year 2022 in Australia, WA, in
Mm,
a time where I believe that we're becoming more conscious of our own nature, and we're becoming, maybe it is something that was done in ancient civilization. Like we look at the Mayans and their ability to place out the planets, or the Egyptian pyramids and their ability to put it at the perfect north point, right? So maybe it's something that we had in the past, but we're so disconnected from it now. I think that's where we're going back towards now, though,
yeah.
this level of awareness of our own nature, our own self, and our own health. And from a holistic standpoint, not recognizing that, not believing that there's one pill or one fix, that there are so many facets to not just us
Mm,
as a human being, but life in general. And we've got to identify, like, where are we within space, and how is our current vehicle, our current mind, our current body, our current spirit, our emotions, and be able to identify that and then be able to build upon that. And I want to be a big part of that. And that's what SMA wants to be a big part of as well. It's to help people come to their greatest self and navigate themselves through their desired life.
mm,
We're not here to tell anyone how to live. We don't have these values or virtues or morals that people need to follow. We just want to help people in what we believe uh, come to their best self through their biomechanics, their movement, their breath, hydration, sleep, their
yeah.
mind. That's how we want to impact the world. And that's how we're doing that, is through systems. Systems are very important, easily accessible ways for people to actually follow the process. So we have our own training app as well that allows people to
Oh wow.
follow their nutrition, to follow their exercise, to follow breath work. I've got breath work videos on it as well for people to follow. Same thing as meditation, sleep. We run our own podcast and all that as well.
Yeah, I've
And then
seen you start that up. That's cool.
yeah. I think we're what? I think 4 episodes are live now. I think the
Yeah.
fifth one goes live soon. So yeah, we're just trying to get more of that knowledge out to the world for free. That's just free value. And then we want to have physical centers, because I'm sure you agree, as you're starting to progress into that. There's something that you can't achieve without seeing someone
Mm,
in person. Like
yeah.
there's so much to, like, energy, like whether they have nervous tics or anxiety tics. You can't notice that through just like email or phone or like a Zoom, for instance. And also the connection, the relationship, the relatability. I think COVID was a really, like, it really showcased that, how big suicide and depression was during that, because of the isolation away from friends and family. And we want to help people not only in their health, but holistically. And I think holistically also covers this social aspect of life. And we want to create facilities that help people with that social aspect as well.
Yeah. No, you're right. You even reminded me, I feel grateful too, you know, like we actually are at that point where like we're starting to understand the complexity of things, and we've got the open-mindedness because of everything that's happened to start moving towards this. It's like the whole paradigm cycle, you know, we're at that point where it's actually becoming more acceptable now because the general public is getting access to it. I totally agree. It's not just one thing, you know. We need to move away from the whole causation model. It's everything is intricately connected. You know, it's like the whole idea that let's get rid of whale killing. You get rid of whale killing, and then some like rare species of plankton dies, and then this type of fish dies, and that bacteria eating the fish goes away, and then the temperature in the water increases, and like everything dies. It's like everything at every moment is equilibrium, in an equilibrium. So that's very true. Cool. I think we'll wrap it up, man. How can everyone find you?
Beautiful. So you can either search my gym, Strength and Motion Academy, on any platform. Google, we got Spotify for our podcast. Also, our Instagram is just search Strength and Motion Academy, and that will come up. Myself, I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well at Navar Poole, and that's my handle for everything. So it's pretty easy to find from there.
Yeah, great. I always have everything in the description anyway, but it's thank you so much for this chat. I'm really grateful to be able to have these type of conversations with people, you know, at the peaks of the industry and future leaders. 10 years, 15 years time, we will be the ones, you know, leading, if not already now. So thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too, man.
Thanks, mate.